Welcome to Sounds from the Real. I'm Ellie.
And I'm Harvey. And today we're going to be discussing the soundtracks behind some of our favourite films of all time, with some choices from a few mystery listeners.
We'll be looking at Top Gun.
Talk to me, Goose.
And Trainspotting.
Some people hate English, I don't.
As well as many others to be revealed later.
But for now, it's time to get real. Okay, so Ellie, what soundtrack are we going to start with today?
Well, after waiting 36 years for this movie, I think you can agree with me, Harvey, that the soundtrack for this movie was far greater than we could ever imagine.
I think that's pretty obvious from the box office ratings and how much the film made.
Yeah, the movie starts with the iconic intro music where you see jets flying over with their missions, which I think really sets the mood for the whole movie. But let's talk about the music that they used.
Alright, I'm ready. Go for it.
Let's start with Great Ball of Fire by Jerry Lee Lewis. Like the intro, this song is so iconic to the franchise and gives viewers the sense of deja vu when we get to see Goose sing his late father's iconic song almost in the same way that Rooster did.
I do have to agree that seeing that image, it does make you quite emotional. I guess a lot of nostalgia for people coming back to the second one as well, so definitely an emotional point there.
Yeah, exactly. They also use songs like I Ain't Worried by One Republic, which surely became a very viral song on TikTok after seeing the bonding scene between the pilots of Top Gun. This song not only lifts the mood of the pilots, but symbolises that things have changed and that Maverick is slowly but surely bringing these people together.
It just makes me want to watch the film again, I'll be honest.
The whole soundtrack for this movie is so symbolic and really pays respect for the original movie without changing too much of its much-loved music that people have loved for years and will love for years to come. So what's your pick for this week's episode, Harvey?
Okay, so my pick for this episode is Danny Boyle's iconic Trainspotting from 1996.
Nice choice. Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, with it being a postmodern film, I think it's important to look at postmodernism, and it often gets the whole style over substance critique. Though I'd say Trainspotting is the sort of an anomaly in that category, because the film has a lot to say, and though it does have a lot of style, you kind of come away from it, and there's so much substance that you're almost not really being able to say anything as the credits roll.
Well, what does it have to say?
It kind of provides a snapshot of Scotland in the early 1990s. It takes a very funny but also extremely dark look at Thatcherism, drugs, AIDS, gender as well, and to be honest, there's a lot of drugs going on, I'll be honest, but yeah, the film has a lot of style, and most of that comes from the soundtrack, and there's a whole obsession with Iggy Pop, who brings the opening scene to life with the anthemic Lust for Life.
I'm intrigued, go on.
So the energy and the lyrics of this song sort of indicate what the characters are searching for, which is this idea of hedonism, which is really the just sole pursuit of pleasure, and it's a perfect fit for the film.
What else makes the soundtrack so great?
It has a lot of Britpop icons that were big at the time, so like Blur, New Order, and Elastica, and even Noel from Oasis was asked to do a song, but he literally thought it was a film about train spotting, so he thought it was a bit boring, and yeah, he was like, "No, I'm not going to do it."
Looks like he missed out on that.
Yeah, I think he did, and the film soundtrack is just so cool. But sometimes I feel like it's in danger of glorifying drugs in itself. But the horrific things that happen in the film sort of redress that balance.
Well, what's your favourite track from the soundtrack?
So as the film closes out, ends with "Born Slippy" by Underworld, which is quite like a dancey track, and I think it's a perfect embodiment of the film's driving pace, but also very dark pulse.
So we decided to choose to talk about Fast and Furious 7 for a certain reason, which I think you guys can understand the reason why.
I think the soundtrack in this movie is so amazing, like the other movies, but we decided to choose this movie in particular, being the last Fast and Furious movie that Paul Walker was in before he sadly passed away.
Near the end of the movie, the directors pay an emotional tribute to Paul with him driving down a separate road from his best friend in the movie to sort of symbolise that he's taking a different route than his friends.
Yeah, Paul had filmed quite a bit for the movie, but they were near finishing it and unfortunately passed away. So they used CGI and his older brother to give Paul the proper send-off that he deserved.
They decided to use the song "See You Again" by Charlie Puth, due to it being a song that the cast and his family could all relate to. Even now, when people hear this song, we're reminded of Paul, which I think really symbolises the love for not only him, but for the franchise in general.
It's honestly such a shame that he passed so soon, but I think it's a great point to show that how music can take sort of a film that you might consider quite silly and really give it emotional punch towards the end. And that's just a testament to the power of the soundtrack.
Now, we would like to welcome some guests to the podcast who will be sharing with us today their favourite soundtracks, and we will let you know our thoughts.
Hi, my name's Will Brown, and my favourite soundtrack from a movie is the one from the original John Wick movie. Probably because it's got a mixture of a bit of rock, cyberpunk sort of stuff, and then when it's needed, it's got the ambient sort of slower music. And alongside with all the fight scenes and the sadder scenes, it just goes perfectly, really. So
I think it's really important that a movie, like Will said, captures certain moments while using different genres of music to truly capture what the scene is trying to get across. I completely agree with what Will was saying. What about you, Harvey?
No, I completely agree, and I think we did some research before recording this, and we dived back into the film, and I think that the scene that really stuck out to us was the nightclub scene. Particularly, there's a couple tracks. The first one was called Khalida. It was called Think by Khalida, sorry. And that's at the start of the nightclub scene where he's kind of like going about all sneaky. So it's kind of chilled out, but very atmospheric, very tech heavy. And then as soon as he's found him and like the chase goes through the actual nightclub, it goes to this track by a group called Le Castlevania called LED Spirals, and it kind of goes from a very subtle first song with Khalida's song to just something just completely off the walls, and I think it's a perfect fit for the scene and how sort of crazy it is.
Yeah, I think it adds really, really well, the way they've used it and stuff. Yeah, it just made me like the movie so much more.
Definitely the standout scene from that one. Alright, so our next guest is going to talk a bit about Bohemian Rhapsody.
In my opinion, the soundtrack for Bohemian Rhapsody was chosen excellently. I'm not sure who did it, but they did an excellent job. And I believe it is in chronological order. So songs at the start of the film, obviously from the start of their career, and as it comes down, which I think is a nice touch.
I think this film is really special. It kind of kicked off the craze of, what do you call it, I guess, music biopics. And this one was definitely special when it came out. And I think it's a very rewatchable film. And it has a lot to do with people's connection to Queen. I know we're both big fans, but I think the craze has kind of gone a bit too far. There's a lot of films coming out in that vein. Yeah, what do you think about the film?
I say I'm a huge fan of Queen. When I saw this movie, I started fangirling. I was really enjoying it. I can say near the end they have obviously their singing loads of songs and the concert stuff, and then obviously if you get the bonus feature, there's a long version of stuff, and I think the way they've captured obviously Freddie Mercury and Queen in general, it's just so nice, and the way they portray the audience as well, real fans. There was actually this old man who was actually at the real concert, and you could just see the emotion in his face, reliving that moment again. And I think just the way they've made this movie is just so great.
Yeah, I think, the films, no matter what you think the faults are with it, I think the soundtrack is very emotional, and they've picked a great selection of songs to sort of tell the story. And whether how accurate the story is or not, it doesn't matter. It's really testament just to how powerful these films are. And the soundtrack connects a lot to everyone's past that has any connection to Queen, which is quite a few of us, judging by the reaction.
And so, we thank you for listening.
Make sure you check out all our socials, and the playlist we've made of all the soundtracks we've covered today is going to be in the description.
Next week, we'll speak about the evolution of music in films.
But for now, thank you for being real.